All right, you may notice a bit of an odd background because I'm in a stairway at school. And the reason for this is twofold, basically. Privacy, and you can get a signal here. You can't seem to get a signal anywhere around here. And the reason I'm, doing this at school is because the internet at home having some problem with that. So if you don't see me online, that's why. But so I might not get a chance to do a video for a little bit, so I figured I'd throw this like hodgepodge video because I got like 40 minutes before class, and throw it out here on a couple of topics that are currently going around in the MMA world. One up is an interesting idea that we should actually have a night of the fight weight, not a weigh in, but weight kind of like, you weighed in at 160 pounds, you now weigh like 182 pounds or whatever. And it would just be an interesting thing to basically highlight to a lot of people who don't really know, the size differences. And on one hand, this makes a lot of sense for the fans because it's something to know. Size does play a part in fights. But that being said, there's also a need to appease the athletic commissions, and they may not want that kind of thing getting out. That's why the UFC probably won't do that, which is fair. But while I'm on the topic of weight cutting, I think people make this huge deal about fighters, and specifically guys coming around like Mason Tebow, Anthony Johnson, Thiago Alves to an extent, cutting massive amounts of weight to fight at a lower weight class and talking about how this is unfair. I think, for one thing, that they ignore two things, which is that heavyweight cutting fighters aren't really the most successful. I mean, if you really think about it, Gleason Tebow has not beaten, anyone that's a legitimate, anywhere near a title, anywhere near top tier lightweight, despite since it's come down from 170, despite his huge weight advantage. Anthony Johnson's had problems every time he's gone up and gone through a test as well. You think the Josh Koscheck fight, you think Rich Clemente beat him, you're thinking Kevin Burns had some moments against him. He did destroy Dan Hardy, but that's kind of beside the point. You look at them, and they're not having this massive amount of success. And for one thing, it's because it's incredibly hard on the cardio. Just incredibly difficult to cut that much weight and still have a solid cardio presence, which does, of course, mean that if you are fighting someone with a good cardio game and an ability to take punishment, because that's obviously a problem. Anthony Johnson was in there, say, skull grabs you out of there, admittedly, but you can expose that thing. So it's a two-edged sword, and people want to take weight cutting out of the sport and everything. But with the weight class being so far apart, I don't think that's really an option, because you look at it and you got people who, boxing can do it because boxing has a weight class like almost every 5 pounds. MMA doesn't. I mean, what are you going to tell a guy like Sir Jason Burrell's out here? Jason Burrell's probably weighs about 210 to 250. He cuts very little weight, I think. I could be entirely wrong with Jason Burrell's, but I mean, there is someone who fits the description that I'm throwing in here that cuts, very little weight to make a weight class and really can't fight in the next weight class up. Particularly, this is prevalent at 205 because the great gap between 205 and heavyweight, and also the great gap between middleweight and 205. Where, I mean, what are you going to tell that guy? You can't cut weight. You got to fight at heavyweight. Well, that's terrible. So unless you're going to introduce like weight classes that, specifically something that delineates maybe like a 220 weight class or cruiserweight between heavyweight and light heavyweight, maybe something between welterweight and middleweight to kind of not welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, maybe even welterweight, middleweight, to make these weight classes closer. I think weight cutting is a necessary part of the game, and if you can make the weight, you should be able to rely to fight it. And people want to do away with that with like same day weigh-ins, just outlawing it in general, and I don't think it works. Now, if you can't make weight like Anthony Johnson, you should be forced to go up. You should, unless you have a legitimate reason for why you didn't make weight, basically, and he never has had one. I mean, that's kind of the thing, or at least not one that is, I guess, common knowledge, or maybe I'm just missing the boat on that, but that is really common knowledge, and throwing that out there. So you should be forced to go up in the weight class, and he is finally. He's going up to middleweight, which hopefully people will stop complaining about Anthony Johnson. Honestly, hopefully we'll see an Anthony Johnson who doesn't gas easily and can make weight, because that would be great. Because he is an exciting fighter, and I do enjoy watching him fight. It's just he does seem to be a guy who's taking advantage of basically the fact that the UFC doesn't seem to call off fights due to this weight. So what else do we want to talk about here in the world of MMA? We got good cards coming up. We got of course the finale coming up. I'm gonna throw it out here for the non-tough fighter fights because the finale's not set. Taking Mayhem by unanimous decision, or not Mayhem, Bisping by unanimous decision, which might shock some people because of course I seem to hate Bisping, and it would be fair to say that I do hate Bisping, but I respect the skills. I think he's better on the feet. I think he can keep this thing standing. I think he can. If Mayhem gets hit the ground, I think he can survive reasonably well back to his feet and win this fight. Because Mayhem's stand-up is not very good. His wrestling is not dominating. The ground game is very good, but he's got to be able to get there and use that. And his ability to take punishment and cardio are also very good. But Bisping's cardio is also pretty good. Bisping's not afraid to play the backing up game where he just stays outside and picks you apart and does that. Or he might come in with a dumb game plan like he did against Dan Anderson. But we'll see. As for the other big fight they've got to put together is Tony Ferguson versus Eve Edwards. Taking Tony Ferguson, Eve Edwards just seems to be past his prime, but I guess be the best way to put it. He's not looking as quick as he used to. He still has skills, and he's still a dangerous fighter, but I think his ability to take punishment is considerably down, and I think his quickness and explosiveness is considerably down. And Tony Ferguson, he's a pretty skilled guy. He finishes fights. He has great knockout power. I predict a second round knockout TKO of Eve Edwards by Tony Ferguson. Even though, again, I don't like Tony Ferguson because of the whole "Where's your son" thing. So there's your irony. I'm picking against I will be cheering against my picks. That's a bit weird. And we got other things coming up. Brock Lesnar, Wolverine. I'm hoping to be able to do full breakdowns of the cards, so I'm not going to get too into that, but, it's a great time to be an MMA fan. Because, we just got a great card. We get more very interesting fights. We're getting some free fights, and that's just fun. Just trying to think if there's anything else I want to go through. And I'll throw this up here, actually. Women's MMA has been getting some talk on sort of forums and things, and basically people, whether you would watch it or not. I'm just going to throw out my stance and invite you to comment on your stance on it. I don't mind female MMA. The problem with it I see, and people, try to correct me on this periodically, but you just don't see it. Maybe I am wrong, and it's just something I haven't seen. But the lack of depth is kind of against me. Until you can put on, I would say, not a pay-per-view quality card or anything like that, but a card of women where none of the fights are a lopsided ass whooping, but that you can put like 12 fights together that in multiple weight classes that make you go, you know what, this is a watchable card. If it's on free TV or it's at a solid pay-per-view price, it becomes a pretty watchable thing. Because I think the whole idea that it's girls and they shouldn't fight is silly. And maybe this is because I have a sister who hits like out of man. Go figure. That I have to respect that women can fight and should be allowed to fight if they want to. It's just a matter of finding the talent skill, the depth of talent. Because of course you run into the same things at lower weight classes for men, and also the higher weight classes. Because of course heavyweight's never really been the most competitive division. And of course, super heavyweight is a complete joke. And then if you get down to like 125 in the med, it's getting better, but it's not really there. We also had some comments from Zab Judah on MMA, which were a bit silly, which was basically anyone can be an MMA fighter if they want to, because you just pop a guy in the walk and break his arm. For one thing, I don't think Zab Judah is that's really his opinion, because he said some positive things in the past about MMA. He is a boxer who seemed open to the concept, but he lacks relevance in the boxing world, and he kind of is just trying to noise. It worked because I'm talking about it, but I'm only talking about it because I'm going on. So I don't think we should make a big deal of that. I've always said that MMA doesn't really need to make a big deal about what boxing says, because that legitimizes it a lot. It doesn't mean you don't talk about it. It doesn't mean you don't somewhat defend it. You just don't really make a big deal of it. Anyways.